Hello everyone, Jeannie here. So yesterday I got a call from Senator Antique's office saying that the appointment they had on Monday to discuss the No Jab, No Pay amendment bill that he has put forth as a private member's bill had to be postponed because Parliament's being recalled. And I thought to myself, oh well, of course it had to be postponed, but I actually hadn't considered the impact that this recall of Parliament would have actually had to my own personal schedule. And it was almost as though I was operating in a different bubble to what was actually happening out there. And I actually got to thinking that in Parliament, and these politicians, they're operating in Canberra, and often they don't see the unintended consequences of their, or maybe they do, maybe they do. They make up these laws and they think they're going to achieve certain goals, and often these are driven by political agendas to get people to vote for them because they think they're fixing a problem. And so with this particular bill that's been put forth, another unnecessary unconstitutional bill, we're given 2 days consultation, 400 pages. I'm sure there's plenty of people that have got their commentary on it for or against. I think it's unnecessary. And it's also been designed simply to put people in jail for having an opinion that the government doesn't like. Now, even if they don't successfully get someone in jail for these laws, and we've already got a raft of hate speech laws that have put people in trouble, because the law is the law, it's an administrative system. Most people will never get to the High Court to test out the constitutional validity of it. So people have there was an old veteran who had a war flag, a Nazi war flag that he was showing to a friend. He ended up getting charged. He faces, I think, a year in jail. There was Damien Richardson, who actually ran for Senate. I think it was in 2022. He ended up being charged with an offence because he decided to use a Nazi symbol, which was where he raised his arm, and he basically was making a joke. He was making this Nazi symbol and saying, "Are you going to put me in jail?" They actually did try. Now he's now been given some re-education, and then there's a young man who is also in detention currently, solitary confinement, I believe, because he made a Telegram post using the term rhetorically rape. They've labelled him all sorts of things, which is generally how it's done in the media. So I did an interview with Dr. Charlie Teo. It's a very insightful interview about how the media and the state can be weaponised against someone. And if you looked at Dr. Charlie Teo's, Professor Teo's credentials and his achievements, I mean, 11,000 surgeries, there's practically not a soul in Australia who doesn't know someone that has been saved by him. They were able to actually have him not operate anymore, basically put conditions on his medical licence that he's no longer able to operate in Australia. Now, if you look at the pattern of how this was done and achieved by the media and also APRA, which is a law unto themselves, you can see a pattern here. So they can basically go for Charlie Teo, they can go for any doctor. Now, similarly, we're looking at this situation now with these hate crime bills, or we could call it the stamp every last bit of freedom of speech in Australia bill. And they will do fairly similar to anybody. Now, they'll more likely go for someone who doesn't have any digital footprint whatsoever, who hasn't got any profile, because it's far easier, and then they can start wiping out online every part of you that looks reasonable and normal in order to paint you as some sort of neo-Nazi or some racist or bigot or dangerous, unhinged person, and then they'll be able to apply these laws. And even if you're not, I think the courts are such, and they're pretty much beholden to actually just apply the law as is. They don't have a lot of leeway. Judges can't say, oh, well, we don't really think that this person committed this crime. And with this particular law, there is going to be no due process, as well as the fact that it's retrospective, meaning that they can go back in time and say, you made a post in, I don't know, 2000 that you said this, and we think it's a hate crime because you didn't actually offend anybody, and this is part of the bill, but we've decided we're going to prosecute you, and it's done. Now the thing is, people will say, okay, let's go to social media and make a big deal about it, and it's all going to blow over. But there's just so much on social media right now. There's so many things happening every single day that even if you did get your 15 seconds worth of fame and were able to go viral, it's unsustainable because there's so many other things going on. And so this bill should ring alarm bells, whether you're left or right or whatever side of the spectrum, because once it's put in place, the government of the day will be able to use it whichever way they want. Now, so who knows what sort of government we'll end up with in, decades to come. And people need to have a deep think about that, because it's not just about today, it's about the future of Australia. Also, a few interviews to look out for on the healthallianceaustralia.org page that are relevant to this particular case is Professor Charlie Teo, an interview also with Iris Coe, Jemima Toby, and importantly, the interview I did with Jackie Dundee. There is also an interview with Trevor Hold that also discusses his battle with the system. So it all kind of ties in together if you see how the big picture is working, and why, well, I'm not sure we'll be able to stop these laws from getting through. Maybe if people go out there and contact their senators, especially the Green senators, we might have a chance to actually get rid of this. We did have a win against the misinformation and disinformation bill. I was reluctant to put this interview or this post out today because sometimes it just feels like we're fighting against something that is unwinnable, but then I'm like, okay, well, I mean, you can't be in a fight unless you're prepared to put yourself out there. And so I encourage people to keep using their voice, keep speaking out, because we're not just fighting for Australia today, we're fighting for Australia for our children.